But now you're getting mad at me, and I'm fine with that.
Are you?
Yes, I really am.
Well,
I don't feel any.
I'm not going to be nice. I'm going to be harder at being mean to you till you feel it.
Nate, you just called me a coward earlier this week.
When?
When we were talking about the party, you're like, why don't you go up to the girl? You're just sitting there like a coward.
It was
Wait.
pretty good, right?
Yeah.
He said you were like a coward.
Tell
Say
this
you were a
story
coward.
then to them.
Yeah.
Let's hear the story.
They're totally not robots, they're just normal guys. Ordinary people leading ordinary lives. Totally not robots, they just want to make you laugh. So sit back and relax, or else you'll feel their wrath.
Welcome to Totally Not Robots, everybody. I'm your host, Tony Augusty, here with
Charlie Matt.
Will Curry.
Late Hudson.
Late Hudson. And we're going to get right into it. Nate is so mad at me right now. He feels like I ruined the day because I made a joke about him being... Well, not even a joke. I just pointed out he was late. There was no joke involved. So let's get to it, Nate. Why are you so mad about this?
I'm over it.
You're not. Well, see, now this is Nate protesting.
This is Tony bully hosting the show right now. He's like, let's just bully Nate right off. I'm your host. I'm the host.
Nate, I'm inviting you to bully me.
I just think there should be some compassion. It's a Sunday. I was trying to get here. I get here 5 minutes after.
I know you're going through a tough time, and I have compassion for that. We've talked about that, Nate.
I was sick this week.
I've inquired about it. I've inquired about your family.
Car problems. This is like the little things I'm building up. I'm trying to be here. I'm trying to be present. And I say this thing. I'm so hyped to see you guys. It's going to be fun. You're late. It's I'm
not going to say what you said because it involves outside people, but it was celebrating the fact that you made it here,
Yeah. It was celebrating it, and then what'd you do?
And I said, you were late. I said, why were you late then?
Were you late? I don't
Yes.
know if you were late.
Thank you, Will.
Okay.
Yeah.
5 minutes. It's like that leeway time on a Sunday, like getting into a place. I'm not here. I don't have anything to set up right away.
I have an opinion on this.
Yeah.
I'm still getting my clothes on, getting my face beautiful.
Yeah, it was worth it.
So much work.
I think it's okay that you're late, personally. Like, I think if there was a reason I needed you here on time, I probably would have said something to you. But if you're late, like a little bit, that's okay.
We weren't even, before this, we weren't even making a podcast. It was let's try to get together. Let's talk about a formatting for a podcast. Let's talk about a new camera setup. There was no we're doing a podcast, we're bitching. It was like a soft Sunday thing. I'm trying my best.
Soft Sunday.
And for you to just put me down on that first thing, it's just not nice.
Do you think there's maybe
it's not a nice thing?
Accumulation because you're generally late for everything?
See, this is...
What is punctuality, really?
What is it? I don't mind, honestly.
It's an American thing. We're so hardcore about it.
Look, I never said I was nice, first of all. Okay? I never said I was a nice guy. I get tagged that
Tony's not a nice guy.
Yeah.
What a fun podcast.
Yeah. But I would say I try to be kind. But I think that niceness is a kind of like a fakery. You know what I mean? Like there's a fakeness to being like, if someone tells me, oh, he's a really nice guy, I'm like, I don't know. I don't trust that person immediately.
That's because it's in a dating situation. They say, oh, he's nice.
Maybe that's true. That's
nice
true.
Guy.
Yeah.
He's a nice guy.
Yeah.
No one wants to date a nice guy.
That's true. That's true.
But if someone said he's a kind guy,
and
would you want to date him?
I really think lateness comes down to how you were raised. I think most people, if you're from a late family, you're late, and if you're an on-time family, you're on time. Because you get that drilled into you. But it is, for better or worse, I don't like it. I don't like lateness.
Time is money, they say.
Yeah, and look, I would say when you're late, how many times do I ever say that you're late?
I asked if we had a heart out today. I asked, do we have anything going? You don't have anything going on for the next 6 hours, you said. So why you got to slam me with the 5 minutes right there off the bat?
Yeah.
Because it's something personal on you.
Yeah.
That you're mad about me, and you got to make sure you nick into me about it right off the bat.
You're like, well, you should go up to her and say hi. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to.
We're missing some.
No, what he said is,
well, I don't want to involve an outside.
I already know how this will go. Which is not true, buddy.
Well, that's true. You're right. And I own that.
And that's why I told you were being a coward.
Yeah.
Because you're making up how you think it's going to go in your head. But you don't know.
But did I get
until
mad?
You do it.
Did I get angry at that?
Clearly you're a little sore.
No, I'm just pointing out that I'm not the only one that puts people down in this friendship.
Mm.
Fine.
Yeah.
I don't even think you guys are putting each other down because Nate was late. You just mentioned it, but
I agree. I was a coward.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I want to know. Okay, so
So he agrees now.
Well, I don't
No,
think
I
you're-
agree the whole time.
I want to know
Hold on.
more about the situation with the girl, and you don't have to say who they are. I want you to know.
I
want
would
to know what your
say-
I
thought
wouldn't
process
say that
was.
to you if I didn't think you could handle it.
And I'm saying the same
Because
thing to you.
I'm a nice guy,
But I'm saying that,
and I will claim that.
and I'm saying to you, I thought you could handle it. Clearly, you cannot, which is fine.
I cannot.
Okay.
Have some compassion. Is
The
what
reason
I'm
I'm saying it is because I am, for better or worse, a big picture, long-term thinker, you know, and I just see problems down the line. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It accumulates, like Charlie said. You know what I mean? Like and you know, this is kind of like the same thing we're talking about with the girl. You're paying a little bit for the lateness of all the people before you. You know what I mean? Where if I'm depending on you and you're late, I have a problem with that. You know what I mean? It's like, does it matter if you're late now? No. But will it matter in the future?
Were you depending on me to be here today?
I just said, did it matter if you're late? No.
But you had to say something, is what I'm saying.
Well, hold on, can I ask a question
Yeah.
here? How did you communicate to him that you were not happy about him being not on time?
I just said straight up, like, then why were you late?
So you asked him why he was late.
Yeah.
Okay. So can I
'Cause
get my take
yeah,
on
yeah,
this? Okay.
Will, please.
So my feeling on it is if you feel it's important for us as a group to be punctual, I would just say to him, I would say, Nate, like, it's important to us that you're punctual. Do you feel like you can be punctual next time?
Well, I respect you, Will, so yes.
Okay.
Now you're implying that you don't respect Tony.
Am I?
I think that's true. I do think lateness is a matter of respect.
I'm just saying, like you're saying, like, I understand you want to know why he was late to understand, but I would just, you know, I feel like it's just asking him, like, I want something different here. Like, is that possible that you could just be here on
No,
time next time?
That's the difference, is that I accept that Nate will be late. You know what I mean? And like,
Yeah.
because I in my experience, people that are late are always late, and they always will be, and that's okay. I accept that. You
Well,
know,
it doesn't feel like you are okay with it. Like you're saying, not
Doesn't
okay.
seem like you're okay with
this
it.
is what I'm not okay with, is that when people that are late celebrate being on time, call out other people for being late, and then get mad when I say, well, no, you're not. You know?
Yeah, so it
Like
kind of
if like the only, again, when Nate showed up, I like, you know, late, I wasn't like, Nate's late, you know, I was just like, okay,
Yeah.
I didn't say anything.
Well-
But then he went into this whole thing about guys, you know, like I could have been basically later, you know, like, and look at what I did. Look at what a hero I am.
I think he was just joking around.
And I was joking around.
Yeah. So I think we now know that you know, if we accept that if you're not on time, if you're able to make it on time, great. If you are late, none of us should celebrate it. I think it's look at me trying to diffuse the situation.
Yeah.
But again,
good, man.
again,
This is me.
This is
my problem.
this is kindness. This is like empathy. This
but
is a
you
real
know,
person.
Nate, you know that I'm kind, and we have shown kindness to each other. You can't deny that. You bought me a nice watch for my birthday. I came to your birthday.
Talk
to your
about my
birthday.
flashy gifts I give you
Yeah.
on the podcast.
Look, I agree that we
that's not what it was for.
we can be kind to each other, but again, I like emotionally, I'm not worked up at all about this.
Now I gotta
No.
get Will nice gifts.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
I got him a Fifth Avenue. You know how hard it is to
I-
find a king size Fifth
I-
Avenue candy bar?
Fifth Avenue is my favorite candy bar.
Yeah.
And Tony.
King size?
How many
King
stops?
size.
How many
Size.
stops did you have to make to
Like
yeah.
4 CVS's.
Wow, thank
Yeah,
you. I
yeah,
appreciate the
yeah.
effort there.
And I was like, you know, I was
Did you ever
just
think
driving
I was
around,
just
I'm
gonna
like,
buy him 2 Fifth Avenues?
Yeah, just two.
No,
The
Not for
the
you,
king
King.
size is yeah.
because I kept looking on DoorDash and it said they had like a king size available.
Wait a second.
You know?
DoorDashed it?
No, I looked. See, here's a
I
trick.
looked at 4 CVS
Here,
online.
here, audience is
Not
a trick.
DoorDash.
If you want to know if a store carries like, you know, like this flavor of something, just search in DoorDash and it'll list their inventory.
Yeah.
And but the problem is sometimes you order something and they'll have it listed, but it won't be in the inventory. So like they'll say, well, we can't deliver it, so here's an alternative. So I looked up and it listed 4 CVS's, and I was driving around. It wasn't like I asked.
It's okay, you know.
Yeah. See, this is
Driving
what I do. I diminish
and-
myself.
And DoorDash.
And DoorDashing at the same time?
Yeah. No.
Menace.
No, I don't. I didn't DoorDash it. I just looked it up and I went to DoorDash, and it was
Yeah.
the CVS on Woodward and Coolidge.
Well, we're in Coolidge. Okay.
Yeah, so they
Okay.
have king size,
So
and
now-
they have the regular size.
So
but,
I know where to go now.
yeah.
Did you eat it?
I had half of it last night.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. It's really great.
But
candy.
again,
He only had half of it. You might as well.
if you had a whole king size Fifth Avenue in one city,
At a regular size.
this
Sorry.
this is what I'm talking about. It's like the greater thing is I just see, because this always happens with people that are late or whatever. Like I said, I've said this on the air and I've said this off the air, is that we all have things that we have to work on,
Yeah.
in the context of this podcast.
Sure.
We're going to have to push ourselves in different
Yeah.
ways,
Well, what's interesting to me is I feel like we talked about this is that you're not afraid of conflict. I'm pretty conflict
yeah.
averse. So it's an uncomfortable thing for me to work through. Like, because I feel like, because for me, it's like when I see someone like right now, you guys are like going at it. I'm like, oh, this is gonna turn into a big fight and everything. So like I'm trying to diffuse it, but like I think I just need to let it go a little bit. Like,
Yeah,
get it
that's
out.
true. But again, I guess I see how not talking about things builds resentment,
yeah,
and
totally.
and I just feel I just really strongly feel in addressing things. Like how many times when somebody dies, for example, and I don't wish you're dead, Nate,
All the
is that, oh, I wish I had said something, like my dad had a heart attack like 14 years ago. Okay. Just so
Yeah.
he almost died like 4 times over the summer. And I remember when he went to the emergency room, because I was at work and they called him after he had been admitted to the hospital. He had like a heart attack, with an unrelated thing. He got very lucky. And my sister and I were in the ER,
Mhm.
and we were thinking my dad was dead, probably, because
Yeah.
my mom, she was a nurse, and then so they let her in there, and he had his face covered with like he was dead.
Oh
And-
shit.
And she was like, well, he might be dead, so and then my sister and I were looking at each other, and she's like, I don't have anything I wish I said to my dad.
Mm.
And that is like, and I don't have anything I wish I said to dad.
Yeah.
I said, me either. And that is, for better or worse, our family. You know what I
Yeah.
mean, how we were raised. Like my parents were brutally blunt to me, which is not healthy. I understand. So I understand what I'm doing is not always healthy, Nate. You know what I mean? So I'm saying,
Do you?
yeah, I do. I do. I
You
used to when
recognize it, but if you don't like change the behavior or
But,
anything, then
okay.
you-
okay, but that's a two-way street.
yeah. To that rationale,
don't you put me on your two-way street?
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean.
Don't you put me on your
This is
two-way
what I
street?
mean, is like, I will not ding you on being late, but I will just say here for the record that I foresee a problem with this in the future.
Yeah, I think you guys are very opposites in that sense. Like I feel like you're blunt, and I think you're pretty like
But I used to
go
take a-
flow. Like you're not gonna like
Yeah.
you're gonna,
I
Yeah.
used to take a lot of pride in being very honest. I don't
Yeah.
do that anymore because I realize that's pride. You know what I mean?
yeah.
But
Because
know-
it's your honesty.
yes, exactly.
I think
Yeah.
that blunt tactic. I guess it works with some people. I think it's just trying to be more tactful and skillful with like
Yeah,
what you're trying
and-
to get out of
and-
that
and-
encounter. Maybe.
Yeah, and what I will say is I'm working on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't realize it, but you guys don't realize it, but I'm so much, you could ask my sister or like my friends that have known me since I was a kid.
Yeah.
I'm so much better than I was.
Yeah.
Like I used to make entire weddings angry at me. You know what I mean? With like things I would say, like,
entire wedding's angry.
yeah.
Like they're doing like the
Toast.
group dance, and then everybody just stops and looks at you like what?
Yeah, or like at least
You could
at
do
least-
better.
Yeah, at least multiple tables, But yeah, I get that, and really it is a selfish thing. It's not, when I'm saying something and being blunt about it, it's not so because I have any idea that the person is going to change. I don't. It's just so I'm not filled with resentment.
Yeah.
yeah. So when Nate, God forbid, Nate died tomorrow.
Yeah.
Then he'd
You-
really be late.
No, but then he could say,
I
Man,
would be the
Oh,
late,
right on
never-
time.
he would be the late Nate Hudson.
I never
Right
got
on
to tell
time.
him
Me.
how much I think he's late.
His
No, that was funny, Charlie. And
Thank you, Charlie. That's
Yeah.
a good example.
yeah, that's a good example. No, the opposite. I feel like I said what I had to say to Nate.
Nate-
I look,
Nate's tombstone's gonna say he will never be late again.
I
Nate
love
died
Nate,
in a
except-
car accident trying to get to something where he
Yeah.
would sit on the couch and wait for everyone to
Thanks,
plug
Tony.
lavaliers in.
Look, I love Nate, and I actually
You killed me, Toady.
I
You killed me.
actually like, you know, because and look, I do listen to things he says. Like he said that he pointed out that
The cowardice.
when he had
Oh, the cowardice.
when he had a good idea,
Yeah.
I would always say, actually, that's a good idea. And he said that's really condescending because it makes it sound like, oh, you don't
Oh.
back it out
The
good
actually,
ideas.
the
actually.
part. Wow.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah.
that's a good idea. Coming from you.
Actually,
Actually, that's a good idea, you know,
yeah.
and so I've worked on that. I took that note, you know, so I am capable of doing it.
Yeah. Okay.
All I'm asking
If he
is,
wants to.
I got a way to deal with. Nate, we start at 11:30. That's where we're gonna start. We'll just tell him.
I'll be here at 11.
yeah.
35.
Look, I've tried all the tactics with lay people in my life, you know, including
You shouldn't
him.
have
Yeah.
to.
If
Shouldn't
we
have
start
to.
at 11, we could just say it starts at 10:45.
Again,
Tricked
it's
me.
it's
It's a little trick. Just
again,
you.
I won't mention it again, but I'm just
Okay.
saying it's like it's one thing. It's not. It doesn't exist on an island. You know.
Sure.
What I mean?
I
Like
agree.
just like, you know, like for example, you say you don't like like ruffling.
Yeah,
feathers or
right.
Whatever. That will if it's not addressed,
Yes.
it will lead to problems down the road.
Well, I guess so.
Yeah.
I think we're really getting deep into it now. Like
Yeah.
working on this podcast is a collaboration between 5 people.
I know.
Minus Jason right now. He's not here.
I'm sure Jason is watching this like, oh boy, I'm glad I missed
Yeah.
this.
So
Jason's
yeah.
on the- on the side.
Jason's been permanently redecked.
Yeah, yeah.
We
I-
redecked him.
we retconned him. Yeah,
I-
yeah.
I
He's-
think
He was right here.
Yeah, yeah.
with the power.
We should
of-
get like a Japanese
AI.
body
We
pillow
will,
of
yeah.
Jason. That would be funny if we got Japanese body pillows of like
Each
all
of
our
us,
images, and if
and,
you can't
and
make it,
Will keeps him at his house.
Yeah.
and, we're not,
and then it doesn't explain.
My wife's gonna be like, "Why do you have all these body pillows of your
And then
friends?"
when the person isn't here,
Why
we
is
just
this
put
one
the
so
pillow
worn
up.
out?
Yeah, yeah. Why are there holes in there?
This one specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why is there a burlwood hole in the
Right.
bottom of this?
the rest of them look
Bro.
just
In the
fine.
bottom?
This
Yeah,
guy,
yeah.
your
Why
your
does this
to-
look
Why-
so
why the
different under
bottom?
a black?
To-
So
your-
many.
But what were you say? Finish your thought.
your Tony doll's worn
Yeah.
out.
yeah.
Tony doll, yeah.
Oh,
that's the
thank
one,
you.
that's
Oh, I
the
feel
one.
very flattered.
That's
Well,
the
thank
one.
you.
Well,
Except I
it's
don't
more of a
understand it.
hate
Yeah.
F, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, what was I saying? Okay, so anyway, about like the 5 of us were, here's the thing. It's like, I think we have to be accepting of like what our talents are and what things that we're maybe not as good at. But we do need to try and feel like we can be direct and open about like, hey, if I need help with it, I need you to do this. Like for instance, it might be something where it's like, I need you to write this down. I need you to write that script down. Like, whereas, some of us might not feel like we want to write it, or it could be something like, I don't know, whatever it is, like being on time, whatever the shit it is. It's just, I think, accepting certain things and being like, it's trying to get help where you can get help, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like I try not to like take this too seriously, I guess, but at the same time taking it seriously. Is that making sense?
No, see,
No, that makes perfect sense to me.
no,
Everything you said, I'm with.
I disagree with it.
Okay.
I disagree with it because I think this is the road to compromise and like people
Mm.
rationalizing why they
Yeah.
don't succeed. Like we see this in improv all the time. You're like, well, this isn't gonna do anything. We're never gonna do anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's
Self-defeating.
yeah, but it's fear. It all comes down to fear. And I understand it's scary to try. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we do things to sabotage ourselves. This might be a thing to sabotage ourselves, this whole conversation. You know what I mean?
Right, but here's what I'm saying, for example. Like, for instance, like Charlie and Nate, I don't know if you guys have done a lot of script writing, right? Like I've done quite a bit. I think Tony has, I think Jason has. So it's like, as far as writing things down for you guys, that might be a more challenging thing. And
I
it's
want to
like-
get into this.
Okay, well, let's
I want to take it to one thing that Tony said a
Specifically,
second ago
specifically on writing or
on writing.
Okay.
I want to go because this is kind of what you were sending out that text earlier in the day, and I want to get to that.
Yeah, well, I want to talk about that, but I just want to say, like, real quick, like, the fact that, like, let's just say writing as an example, like, you guys don't have as much experience writing. Like, I'm not going to be like, oh, like, these guys aren't bringing, like, the volume of scripts to us that it's like, you guys might, like, obviously you have your talents as actors, right? As comedians. It's like, that might be your time where you shine a little more or in the technical aspect of it, and, like, I can pick up more of the slack on the writing. That is not to say that I don't want everyone to try to pull their weight in, try to write and do things, but I'm not going to, like, be, oh, like why aren't they bringing more scripts? Like,
I want to touch back on this. Can we circle back around to this in a
Yeah.
moment?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that's
Why
exactly
are you
what.
taking this moment? I was circling back.
Oh,
around
you
to
said
say
in a,
something.
can I circle back to it in a moment?
Yeah,
That implied that.
I'm taking the moment.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Take the
okay.
moment. I thought you meant like, okay, well, you
Right
go
now.
and then I'll circle back to it.
Well, you were saying earlier is like we don't want to have a fear of are we doing this because we're afraid it's not gonna. I think it's like everything is like a fear and love ultimately, and I think if we really love what we're doing, it will shine through and people will enjoy it.
yeah.
I think if we're afraid of what we're doing and we don't think we're going to make it, then that fear signs in. Then it's not going to be as successful. We won't have as good of a time with it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think that we want to come from. I think Rashida Jones, her father, Quincy. She had one time. She was like,
Rest
"Oh,
in peace. He's late.
she was like talking about doing something," and he was like, "Are you like afraid that you're like not doing something because you're not gonna have this? Is there a fear thing, or is it for love because you really want to do it? You got to follow those like love things that you have, and I
Yeah.
think that with that comes success. Because if you really love what you're doing and that you put the best foot forward, and people can see it.
Yeah.
That's all I want to say about that.
Okay.
And
Okay.
then back to the writing thing.
Sure.
I think you're right.
Okay.
But sometimes I think with that, I love your writing style. When like Will writes something, he like it's all there. The characters are there. The background. It's like a beautiful script in script format. It's lovely. You do a great job with it, and it's funny, and it ties back together. And I think you're very talented. When I come up with an idea, it's just like loose, and then I bring it here so we could like. I know you guys are funny. I know Charlie's super funny. I love your perspectives. I just want to say like, here's the situation. Like, how do you think this bounces? I want to leave some room for us to play with it
Sure.
and to be like, oh, that's a funny thing. Or you have this idea. Let's pop that into there and make that work. And then it feels to me like it's a collaboration and a spark of an idea that comes into something altogether.
I agree with
And that's probably my improv background.
I hear what you're saying.
Laziness.
Yeah. No, it's not laziness. I hear what you're saying because we can talk about the whole premise of this podcast is behind the scenes us pitching ideas. I don't object to the idea that if you guys have a very just broad, simple idea, it could be just like one word or that inspiration that's like, hey guys, I have this idea. I don't really know what to do with it. What do you think? I do think though there is a lot of benefit to trying to hash out that idea a bit, trying to work it and see what you come up with. Because even if you try and structure that idea and pitch it, that doesn't mean we can't say, oh, what if we go here and completely change it? And I think you might surprise yourself when you try to pitch it, when you try to structure it and figure out what it is. You'll like challenge yourself to go there, I think is the thing that I would say. Because I think you might surprise yourself. That's just my feeling on it.
Yeah,
I think you're right.
I think you're right too. I think that like a better way, what I was looking at, you're saying in a better way than I did, that what I really want out of everyone, including myself,
Yeah.
and I think is necessary for this to be successful, is growth.
Yes, yeah.
You know what I mean? And to me, I'm just speaking from personal experience, fear is, for me, the main inhibitor of growth. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like,
Uh-huh.
and I can make I spent many years making up excuses like, well, I do this, or my parents were this or whatever,
Mhm.
But really what it comes down to is like, because, like I'm working on a novel, I mentioned that. I don't know if I
Yep.
mentioned it on here. But for many years, I was like, why am I not working on a novel?
Yeah.
And really, I came up with so many, excuses. Like I was depressed. I was this. I mean, that was a factor for sure. But really what it came down to was I was afraid. I had this idea that when I write a book and it gets published, then I'll be happy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was like, if I go after my dream, or this thing that I love, and it doesn't work out, then what is the point of my life?
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And that was a big fear, but it wasn't until I'm not saying you have to conquer your fear. I'm just saying that it's very important to acknowledge that you are afraid.
Have you ever seen a sunset?
Yes.
Maybe that's the point of life.
Seeing a sunset.
You seen
Could
one of
be.
those?
Well, that's
They're
being in the
incredible.
moment, right? It's
They're
being in the moment.
incredible. Yeah.
And not to get too philosophical here, but like you're talking about I accomplish this and then I will feel this way versus I just enjoy writing, right?
But
I
that's what I
enjoy it.
switched to, is what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with this is we should enjoy doing this. And if it feels like a slog, then there's something wrong there that needs to be discussed. I think having fun doing this, having fun shooting stuff is great. The thing for me, like I tend to be very good at or bad in stepping into a situation where it's like, okay, well, I'm going to control this, right? Like I'm going to figure out what we need to do, and then like we're going to take action and we're going to get it. I'm going to like lead it, and that can be a bad thing because this is a collaborative thing.
Yeah.
And what can happen is like I start taking control of something, and then people feel like, well, I don't want to intrude on he's the one doing this, and I guess I'm voicing a concern I have about this. I want people to feel like they can say like, hey, well, like you're doing, I don't want to do it that way. Let's do it this way, So I want everyone to feel like they have a voice in what we're doing, and I'm not like trying to control things. And also, I think you said this with something else where like you can start to feel like you're trying to take on too much of responsibility, And I think that's kind of what we're talking about here. Like I think with the thing about being late, taking it seriously, maybe feeling like, is everybody taking this as seriously as I am? And I don't know, it's a tough thing to balance. It's like you got to kind of let people know, and I think you're doing that right now, like how serious you take it, and that you hope everybody will invest the time and effort that you're putting into it as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
But again, I think it will require all of us to grow. Like,
Yeah.
this is my standard for my relationships, like friends,
Yeah.
like all of you, over the years I've known you have grown,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? As people, all, like, and not just you, but like when I think of my friends that I feel closer to, or that, that I, choose to spend my time with, it's like, I can identify all of them and say like, oh, this person is different than how when I met them,
Yeah.
and for the better, you know what I mean? I think, Nate, you've grown a lot since I've met you, like in a great way, you know what I mean? And I love that for you, and I want to see that for me. I feel I've grown in a lot, in a lot of ways, and I'm still growing, but it's not a question of like, we have to all be growing at the same rate.
Yes.
We just
Yeah.
have to be, I just want to be sure that we're all like focused on like expanding,
Okay.
Like,
Yeah. I disagree with the growth
Growth.
analogy, expansion. It's too capitalist. It's too like that's what's ingrained in us
No, I'm
in
talking
our
about,
civilization.
I'm talking about emotionally.
But emotionally, I think we're where we are. I think meeting each other and growing together. Let's say growing together, not getting bigger or getting better, but growing together and knowing each other and appreciating and focusing. That's what I want from us as a pod, from a group of friends, from collaborators. I want us all these eyes of all of existence. We're all these shards of existence itself. I want all of our eyes focused on the same goal. And once we do, magical things will start to sound magical, but that's how to describe it. It'll start kicking and booming.
Yeah.
And we'll learn what we need to get from each other and what we have to put in. But yeah, so growing together, I would say, instead of getting bigger, better, I think we're just going to like appreciate each other, know what we expect from each other, and that's a form of growth.
Yeah.
And
No, that's exactly what I'm talking. I'm not talking about like capitalism.
okay.
You know what I mean? I'm talking about
I'm
like,
talking about capital.
okay, but just like as
for pure profit, guys.
when I say growth in each of you, I mean growth as people. You know what I mean?
That's all wonderful and great. I think though the other thing too, like, but like seriously, like
It's politely dismissive. I love it.
there's like I talk about this being fun and you enjoying it, but it's also work,
Yeah.
and that's all I'm asking for. Is like if I'm going to put my time and effort into it, I want to feel like, and not everyone's
Yeah,
going to put
of
the
course.
same
I'm
time
saying
and
that
effort.
too. Yeah.
It's like growing together, wonderful. But it's like, are you putting a little effort into this? Because it's like
But I think that will. I mean, that's what leads to growth. You know.
Yeah.
And I realize this is why Charlie and I sit together, because we're like, in this like,
This is why they sit together? I thought
Yeah.
you just sat there the first day.
No,
and
we had a
that's how
long
it works.
conversation. Like, Charlie, we have to sit together because we live on a different plane of existence. But we knew.
Yeah.
We all do.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
It's well, I think the other thing too here that we
I'm a
talk
little
about
OCD too.
is like we're improvisers, and with improvisers, the wonderful thing about being improviser is you can just show up and do it. Like you don't have to prepare for it. You should practice your
yeah.
crap.
Gives me
People
life.
they can just show up, and you see people in the community. Bye, Pat,
Thank you.
Bye, Pat. Thanks so much to Pat.
Our-
Yeah.
our technical.
Pat's probably like,
producer.
what the fuck is going on? Like,
It's like I'm out of here.
yeah, I gotta. He wanted to leave like 30 minutes ago.
Pat,
Pat's
Pat's got a life.
he was afraid we'd start fighting each other.
But anyway, as I say, improvisers, you can just show up, right? And you see people that they want to be famous, they want to be successful, and then you get them to sit down to like we're talking about write a script, and they can't put pen to paper, because that requires work. It requires work. It's not just showing up on the day of, and this is the same thing. Like you got to put some preparation, the work that goes into it beforehand, like that is what pays off. Like people watch this, they're probably like, oh, they just showed up and did this. Like we've all been working hard to like make this work, every element of it, preparing for it. So I don't know, too much caffeine, I guess. I'm just like going on a rant. But
That's good.
do we want to talk about how to actually pitch something?
I think we ran out of time.
Oh, we ran out of time.
Yeah.
Like what time? did we
ran
start
out of
at?
time.
I forgot to look.
We've only been going for like
It's-
30 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Let's
Let's talk about
let's
it.
talk about this. Let's talk
Okay.
about how long an episode is, because if an episode is
I think an hour.
like an hour, it's
Yeah.
great. But if some go over, like I think that's fine. We could edit them down.
That's true. It's fine. But I just know from like where the last podcast I had, we run like 2-3 hours. You know what?
Oh, we're not gonna do that.
Yeah.
I would know if it gets to 2.
Okay.
So let's talk about pitching an idea. And I think-
Okay. Yeah. I think this is good. You sent out a little thing about, and I don't think it's talked about enough.
It
Like,
wasn't a little thing.
yeah.
It was he sent out
not
some
a little-
pertinent information
Yeah.
that he put some effort into.
Well, we're devoting
you,
our whole
Will.
segment to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was good for me to do this because when I've taught pitching before, the way I remember it, and I actually found the syllabus from when I taught, and I read it, and I'm like, that's not a very good explanation.
I will say from
pitching.
experience too, like going through multiple writing programs, is that not enough time is spent on it. I don't.
Yeah,
think,
so-
like
Why is it important? I think is the first thing to talk about.
Yeah.
So I don't always come up with a pitch for a script I'm going to write, especially with sketch comedy. It's so short that you can usually just sit down and just like knock it out without outlining it, so really the pitch being the first thing, then outlining it, then writing the script. The longer a script is, I think the more critical it is to do those things. Although some people, like you talked about your book, not outlining, it's not necessarily necessary. But with a sketch, I think you can definitely just sit down and just write out whatever's in your head. But if you write out a pitch beforehand, that's going to make it so much easier to know where this idea is going. And particularly, I think if you're collaborating with people and you're trying to, like you're saying, get ideas from people and get people invested and hooked into your idea, I think you really need to be able to explain your idea in a concise fashion and show people where it's going.
So, would you say there's different processes for pitching to a group and versus pitching to a group of collaborators?
I don't like. What do you mean by group?
Well, let's say you're in a class,
Yeah.
or you're in a writer's room or something, and then you're like Saturday Night Live or you're on a thing of a sketch show
Yeah.
where it's like you're going to be responsible for writing the sketch.
Yeah.
But you're listening to what people will say. But then there might be a thing where there's like a group, like let's say our whole group writes a
Yeah.
sketch.
Yeah.
Is that a different process in your mind?
Well, I think it's kind of getting back to what Nate was saying about maybe bringing something that's not fully fleshed out. I don't
Yeah,
think
yeah.
there's anything wrong with coming with a pretty fleshed out idea. You can come with a full script, but a pitch is, there's so many places it can go. So I don't see any difference. I think to answer your question. I think
Okay.
just sell it to people. And again, you might think, oh, I don't really have a full idea here. Well, push yourself to think through, because I did that today after I wrote out how I write pitches. I was like, okay, well, let me try and follow this thing that I wrote, how to do this. And I had an idea, and I started going by my guidelines of pitch. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I didn't think about this. Where, let me put this in here, think through this, and like, oh, well, this actually is a much different idea. It's going places I didn't even think it was going to go to previously.
Yeah.
So the fact that I kind of forced myself to do that little bit of work, that was like 5 minutes of work, opened up where it could go to. So now when I bring it to you guys, you can jump off to many other different places, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So are you saying there's a power in writing it out versus just saying, I'm going to bring it to a group and we're going to talk it out?
I think if you bring it, I don't know.
This kind of almost goes back to stand-up comedy. There are comedians that write it out, and there are comedians that write jokes on stage.
So I guess it depends on how you operate. I think if you can explain something concisely, for me, I'm into being concise and not pitching something where you are saying, okay, so there's like this guy, and I don't know, maybe this, and I'm thinking this here. It's like all over. I tend to like just kind of ramble, and I think that makes it much harder to get feedback, to sell the idea. It's like, I don't know what a pitch meeting is in like for SNL, but I'm guessing like you wouldn't go in there like with some like half-baked idea where I'm just going to kind of wing it, talk my way through it. Like you probably would go in there with like a very concise pitch to everybody of how this is going to go.
There's actually footage of it. They all sit on the floor in Lauren's office, and then the celebrity guest comes in, and then they pitch ideas to the celebrity. And then from there, the celebrity will say, I like this, or no. The celebrity might come in and say, like, I want to do this, you know? And then Lauren will say, okay, like, okay, write it. Then they go off in teams.
Do you do a Lauren impersonation?
Well, I like that. I can't do it.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. And
sitting on the floor, I need you to sit
on the floor. Yes. And then they go off and write all night.
Apple sauce.
And they tend to write in teams, and they go off and write. And then there's a table read, and then there's like Marcy Klein, Calvin Klein's daughter, fun fact, and Lorne Michaels, and I think Streeter Lecca is the guy that does it now. He's like the head writer. But anyway, like they are sitting at the head of the table, and the cast and the writers will read out, perform out sketches, and then there's a whole board that gets put together of like sketches. Then they have dress rehearsal, and then they cut, and then that's the SNL process.
Okay.
You guys ever listen to Frankie Cosmos?
No.
Okay, we'll get back to that later.
Okay.
So I think the point I'm trying to make is that, I mean, none of this is hard and fast rules, but I think there is benefit to trying to, especially in a group setting like this, to try and come up with something that's a clear elevator pitch, essentially, of your sketch.
Can I have some thoughts on this
Frankie
thing
Cosmos.
real quick? No, we can get back to that. What you said when they go, I feel like when I'm making up a comedy thing, first of all, I try to see what is the funny? Where is the funny?
Yep.
What is that? That is to me like what's the thing that's silly about this situation?
Yeah.
And then how do we make it so everyone else can see the silliness or see what the funny is in it? And what's the best way to kind of like demonstrate that in, whatever medium we're going through, their phone, right? Secondly, I like that idea of like going off and doing things as like a two-person partner thing. I have a really hard time like sitting there and writing something and then just like laughing to myself because I can't tell if I'm being crazy or if I'm being whatever, like if this is really funny or not because I'm making myself laugh. I can make myself laugh at a bunch of stuff. I'm like a great audience for myself.
Some people need a collaborator.
I like it because it's fun to be like, to laugh with somebody and to have that spark happen and to know that we like found that little thing together. And if I can get someone else to laugh with it, I know we're going in the right direction.
See, I'm the opposite.
It's a little audience that I like to bounce it off of, just to have that like, is this actually silly or whatever? Or are we going the wrong direction? I find that to me, that is like very nice for comedy stuff, writing.
It's super effective. Like for me, like I have to write on my own.
Same.
Collaborating with people is just doesn't work for me because probably I have a huge ego. But
I can do it, but it's like I like to feel like something is ready to pitch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's to a point where I'm like, I think this works, but I'm not 100%. You know what I mean? I'm like, let's take it to my class or the show or
Yeah.
the
Well,
group, you know.
Well, we're talking like writing together versus pitching with some. I mean, whatever you want to do, but
Yeah.
like even if you're writing in a duo or multiple people, I think it's worth developing. Trying to develop the skill of pitching an idea, and it doesn't need to be, again, it's not fully baked, but I think trying to put a little effort behind it to see where it goes. So I mean, I could kind of read through the thing. Do you think it'd be beneficial to talk?
Yeah,
through it?
well,
Read through it,
before we do,
please.
like, just talking about experience level, like I said, I think, like, you're probably the most experienced, like, in terms of sketch writing because you've taught it.
Mhm.
And I've taught a little bit of it, but I've gone through multiple, like I said, writing programs. Jason has gone through the writing program. He was actually the actor in my first sketch show for at Planet Ant.
Mhm, mhm.
Right, he was one of the actors,
Yeah.
and he has a lot of experience. So I guess I'm not really quite sure about Nate and Charlie. Like, do you guys like what Will talked about, that concept of, like, I know you said you like to collaborate, and Charlie, you like the class setting, or you?
I do. I like a time and place. I'm a time and place. I'm a permission type person.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I have permission to spitball ideas with your sketch or my sketch. You know what I mean? So, but I do like I like the solitary writing process. I've realized like I like
Okay.
improvising to myself.
Yeah.
And like, okay, yeah.
So that was my question. Like what Will talked about is like you might go to like directions. Have you both or either of you like sat down? I know you say you don't like to do it, but have you actually done that where you like sit down for like 5 minutes and see where it goes, or you're just like, that's not me?
Have you heard of the Professor Wrestler?
Yeah, you wrote that yesterday. That was great.
That was funny.
Mm-mm.
I liked it.
Yeah, like so.
I felt bad. I felt bad texting you guys all that stuff, but I was just like hashing it out, and I
like,
knew all
yeah,
these
so
things in my mind, and I just wanted to
you
get
said
it
that
down
was-
so you could see it.
You sent us like a full bit.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
I'm saying I have no problem sitting and doing a bit if I think it's fun. But in that case, I was like feeling more like I could make this and collaborate and send these ideas to you guys as I'm like,
It's actually
going through it.
good.
It's fun.
Yeah, it was fun.
Son of a bitch.
Surprisingly funny.
Actually, not robots.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we all got the skill to sit by ourselves a little bit. But yeah, collaborating is great.
But from a collaboration standpoint, we've not yet had our circle writing session where we crack open the laptops, pitch our ideas, read them out loud, table read, talk, like
Yeah.
start fleshing these things out in a
I
collaborative.
mean, we could do that on a Tuesday.
and we should
you know.
totally
Yeah.
do that. We have to
Our
start.
What about
schedule is
Wednesday?
shooting on the weekends and for the people watching.
I thought we liked Wednesdays.
Well, yeah, well, some weekday,
Try
but
to throw
yeah,
the
Wednesdays.
audience off,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
maybe.
yeah.
Oh yeah, right.
We don't want them to show up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So well, okay. I feel like since we have no tech,
Yeah,
person, we should probably check that the cameras are rolling still. But we'll just go. We'll just trust it.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's just talk about like what a pitch should be, the elements of
Yeah.
the pitch.
Yeah.
Or, but why don't you use an idea and like take us? Maybe that might be helpful to the audience.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll use an idea that I think everybody knows is the Saturday Night Live, the cowbell sketch, the cowbell. Will Ferrell. Everybody know that? Okay. So the first thing that here's an example of, maybe I'll just read. I wrote down an example of a bad pitch and a good pitch.
Yeah.
So a bad pitch for that, I would say, would be something to the effect of, guy in a rock band plays just the cowbell and he's way too into it. So that's very general idea. It doesn't really give us a lot of information. A good pitch for that, I think, would be, and maybe people will watch this and go, no, that's a terrible one, but I think this is good. So the band Blue Oyster Cult is in the studio recording Don't Fear the Reaper. Gene, the band's overly enthusiastic cowbell player, is trying to shine, dancing and banging away on his cowbell, irritating the rest of the band. The eccentric record producer absolutely loves the cowbell, encouraging Gene, leading to a full-on dramatic meltdown within the band. So it's that has these elements in it. So the first element that I think of a pitch that's important is to be concise. So write it out, make it clear and to the point. That was a little bit of a longer pitch, but I feel like it was pretty to the point. You guys feel like it was pretty to the point?
It has a lot of nice little details. Know what I think is the funny thing about that sketch?
What's that?
Will Ferrell. Put Will Ferrell in it, because he's a comedic genius and he knows how to move his body and be extra in a great way.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, that is the funny in that sketch.
Yeah, it is.
Well, Charlie, I hear Charlie making noises. So finish. You finish away, and then we'll go to Charlie.
Yeah.
Go ahead. That's all I had to say.
I think I don't disagree that Will Ferrell going crazy and showing his belly and stuff and banging the cowbell's fine. I love the producer Christopher
Yeah.
Walken.
Oh yeah,
Out
he's
on
so good.
guys,
He
and then
I just
it could be
need
a problem, but he's like, I got one problem. I need more cowbell. You know what I mean? So
Right.
that more
You
cowbell
can't take
became
it
the memeable line.
When I was a
entire-
kid, I had a shirt that says "I have a fever,"
I have a fever.
and it had a cowbell.
If it wasn't for that character, it wouldn't have been as classic, as funny. It wouldn't have been as good.
Yeah.
See,
So-
to me, like I agree with both those points, but for me, like what made it really funny was like that made it like repeatable. Why people go back to it, at least for me, is that I grew up not knowing like classic rock.
Yeah.
I'm a child of immigrants, and I actually went and listened to the song,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh my god, there is a
Yeah.
cowbell. Like I never
Why
like
is there?
yeah, that
and you can't not hear it. It makes it so relatable because it's like
Yeah.
it's pointing out like I think that's the genius of comedy is like pointing out this little truth that like nobody noticed this before. You know what I mean? It's like yeah, that's just cowbell. Like,
Yeah.
So I mean, to me, I guess that's why it's like why it still resonates. You know what I mean? But I think it's a good study in how like comedy like
And
hits different notes.
I think also with that Blue Oyster Cult song, there's sort of like this like,
yeah.
and then that extra like, ting ting ting,
But also
Yeah.
over the top of that like kind of like low keyness is funny in the song.
I think originally said more like woodblock or something like that. I need more woodblock. And then in the writing process, they went to cowbell's funnier.
So just before we get off like
Yeah.
track here, I think it's important to like talk about more about like because you said well it's about a guy that's playing the cowbell and you know he gets way too into it and you're
Yeah.
like that's a bad pitch
Yeah.
and then you're like this is a good pitch but what maybe can you go more into it about why that's a bad pitch to say like the guy's playing cowbell and he's really into it?
Yeah, I think, well, what I was going to say is, I think what we're kind of, with this podcast, I think trying to educate people a little bit about sketch writing. And one thing is things that you might not think would be that funny about the sketch are very important to making it work. So like you said about like the producer egging him on, the conflict within the band makes it very funny. Like if the band was like, yeah, go Gene, like it would.
Yeah.
Right.
Will
Yeah,
Ferrell,
The
yeah.
fact that like Chris Parnell is just standing there and he's like banging it, like that conflict, like it's a relatable thing in a sense, you know, like we just had conflict when we started this podcast.
Yeah.
So like I forget what your question was.
No.
Why is
Like
it a good pitch?
why is it a bad like what's the difference? Because you were
Yeah.
saying well this is a bad pitch.
Yeah.
And then why is it? Is it because like the detail that it's based on a real life event? Like what in your mind makes your pitch? I'm not saying that you're not better, but I'm just
Yeah.
saying like if you are like coming into this like blind and you're like, well, you might not understand like why is that what makes that pitch better
Yeah.
versus this pitch bad?
Because, well, I mean, I can kind of go through like all the elements,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
think you need
Yeah.
like, so like a setup, you have the characters described, you know, are these, what am I seeing? Like you're pitching it to me. What am I seeing in my mind's eye here? I'm seeing a band in a studio. There's a record producer. There's this guy named Gene, you know, maybe you want to explain a little bit what he looks like if that's critical to it. You know, what are they doing? They're recording a song. So I need to see like what's happening. Otherwise, if I'm just like, hey, it's a guy who plays the cowbell and he's way too into, okay, well, like, why is he playing a cow? Like, what's the why of it? Like, what's going on there? The twist or the unusual thing too, like you had touched on, like that's a key part of all this. And what is making this, what is funny or interesting about it. And that's another thing I get really into too. I think people get so focused on trying to find the funny thing. And I always talk about just trying to find an interesting thing, like what makes this really interesting. So a guy playing a cowbell, is that the twist or the funny thing? I guess it is, but
They always, sorry, I don't mean to,
Go ahead.
but I remember in improv, we would say it's more important, or Sean Hanlon would say it's more important to be interesting than funny.
yeah,
For sure. For the audience.
Michael Hovich also said that.
yeah.
Who?
Oh, never mind.
Yeah, I mean, I think the twist or the interesting thing in there, like we were just talking about, was to me, yeah, it's like this is insane. This guy's playing this cowbell. Like everybody thinks he's a jackass, but then Christopher Walken's like, oh man, like I love that so much. Like that is kind
the
of
producer.
that is where I mean, it's funny before that, but then it really just it's like, oh, well, that's a weird
And
thing.
because like you think it kind of fools you where it's going, it's like, oh, everyone is clearly irritated that he's playing the cowbell. This guy's irritating, and the producer comes in, it's like, actually, I love it.
Yeah.
You know, this is awesome.
That's the best.
So
thing
yeah.
of it.
here's the other thing that I think get a little more complicated that
Mhm.
I think is important with a good pitch. And I sort of realized this today as I was writing. And like when we do improv, we talk a lot about, at least from the schools of
Del
thought,
Close and Viola Spolin.
like a lot of sketch comedy you see will be game based, right? So there's a funny thing, there's a pattern that we find, and we escalate that thing. And I love that type of comedy. An example I think is really great of that is like the Key and Peele like East West game sketch, where it's just the two announcers, they're doing the thing, they're announcing the game, the players, and the names get just increasingly crazy. It's a
Yeah.
very simple game, and it's funny. Another type of sketch we talk about is like a relationship-based sketch. Like there's something going on between characters, and I started thinking about it a little differently today, and I thought about it in terms of there's a conflict. There's a conflict going on. So to me, having a combination of game and a conflict-based scene is really great together. But conflict, if you can explain what the conflict is in the scene too, which in that pitch I did describe to you, the conflict is that really Gene really wants to steal the spotlight with his cowbell, and the rest of the band isn't having it. So there's that tension there. That is really what that scene is about. Like the funny thing about it is the playing the cowbell, the Christopher Walken character, but underlying all this, it's like a band is like coming apart because this guy's trying to outshine the rest of the guys. And then if you remember at the end of the scene, like they come together, like, why don't you play that cowbell? You know, if that element wasn't there, the whole thing wouldn't really work. So
Satisfying finish.
yeah, it's
Resolved
It's
conflict.
a relatable thing for people. Like everybody's been in some kind of group dynamic where somebody's trying to steal the spotlight, or it's like in the I think it actually was a parody of the VH1 Face the Music.
Behind
Yeah,
Behind the music, where like one guy's trying to steal this. Like we've all seen that, and then like they come back together, and so it's a relatable thing in that sense.
I also think it incorporates that trope of someone like is vulnerable and they're like, you know what, you guys are right. Like they give up.
Yeah.
And then the
Yeah.
group says, no, you were right.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes. And I think a lot of people that think about that sketch and love that sketch, they might not think that is something that made it work, but it was absolutely necessary to make it work. If it was just, again, Will Ferrell jumping around playing a cowbell and they're all like, yeah, go Gene, like it would be stupid.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be that funny. So
That has been a criticism of Saturday Night Live, that it moved from like the early Second City influence of like relationship based to the more UCB style of game based, which is more game based.
So this thing, like you just said, relationship based, and that's again something we've learned. I was today I started thinking like, really, it's conflict. You know, if you have a relationship scene, like there's something between us that needs to be resolved, and any story has to have some conflict, right?
Yeah.
And for me doing improv, teachers always would tell me like, why are you introducing conflict? Why are you introducing conflict? And I agree that you shouldn't get into arguments and scenes.
Well, I was going to say that is the big thing in improv, is like arguments are boring, and they're right. You know, if something just evolves into an argument. But I also agree with like Robert McKee in his book Story, which I recommend for anybody writing. It's really about screenwriting, but he talks about this idea of that charge. He doesn't call it conflict, he calls it charge.
Yeah.
And he said you could have negative or positive charge, and like the thing is like in a good scene that you start with one charge and then you end on another charge, you know.
Yes.
And then he goes into other things about how that drives the story forward. But
Yeah.
for our purposes, it's like you start one way. Like in the beginning, it's like you know, it's funny. It's like if you think about that sketch, like they start at a neutral charge,
Yes.
then they get to a negative charge,
Yeah.
and then they like start, then they all, and then they go to like a positive charge.
Yeah.
But really, in the end, what has changed? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? They're all just recording a song, but now it's all internal, which is I think that's another part of why that sketch is so good, is that in the beginning it's like, well, there are these like, resentments and divides, or
Right.
whatever, but at the end they're all on the same page.
Right. Yes. Yes. Absolutely. And I think that's people. It, they may not consciously realize that is satisfying.
Yeah.
But it is to them, that element to it. And like when talking about conflict, it can be very simple. Like a character wants something, right? They want something, and an obstacle is put in their way to getting it. And in comedy, it can be very simple, where they keep trying to get the thing they want. The obstacle keeps making it hard for them. They may or may not get resolution on it. It's not like a full script or story like a movie, where you do need to resolve it in some sense. But yeah, I just think of it that simply. Like your character wants something, and there has to be something put in their way to not getting it.
Like a wire.
Like a wire. Like
Yeah.
you just said, wire. So like Gene, wants to steal the show, and it's the band's getting in his way, and then the band doesn't want him to steal the spotlight, but the record producer's making, so there's like two wants, there's this clash going on, and gets resolved. So yeah, so you can have purely like if I were talking about that East West Key and Peele sketch,
Mm-hmm.
like there's no character wants in that. There's really no conflict in that sketch. It's just a game, fun sketch, right?
Yeah, but we are so used to seeing it in like they're kind of making a spoof on something we're used to seeing all the time,
Right.
which is fun too.
Yeah, it's just a game. It's just like they're taking either way, whether it's a game-based scene or it's a conflict.
I actually find Key and Peele, besides that one sketch, I find like they resolve their scenes tremendously.
well-
One of the best, I would say.
And well, Keegan-Michael Key, for people that don't know, one of the founders of the theater we all met
Planet
at,
Ant, yeah.
Planet Ant,
Yeah.
and a Second City guy,
Mhm.
like a Del Close guy. So very relationship based.
Oh yeah, like I don't want to make it sound like Key and Peele only do like gamey scene. Like
Yeah.
do that. They do relationships. Like they're great actors too. Like, and that's another element too of doing these like relationship conflict. Like, to do it well, I think you have to be a good actor, and like they're great actors. But I was gonna say, like, whether it's a game or it's a conflict relationship, either way, I think for it to work, I was trying to figure out if this is true all the time. I think it is with comedy. It's like it's always got to escalate. There's always got to be an escalation of it. It's got to get more. You need to see more of it. You got to heighten it out, right? You got to keep pushing it. So, yeah, I think that's just to sum it up. Oh, and then like the last part I would say. So I think trying to identify in your pitch, like, is it a game-based scene? Like, is it more? Is there a conflict? Some relation? Like what? Like try and include that in your pitch somehow, and then you don't necessarily have to have a resolution or a blow line or a button or whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
If you want to put that in there because you think like I got a good one, like just put it in there. Like for instance, that East-West game one, I keep coming back to that example. The really great blow line button in that is they do up the names get crazy, and then the last one is a guy is like Dan Smith.
Yeah.
It's like perfect, So if you have that, it's like, hey, it's. I think I wrote down like what that. So let me just read that pitch real quick of the East. So the East-West one. So a bad pitch for that would be like football players introduce themselves like on TV and their names are super weird. So okay, you're kind of there, but a better pitch would be during a college football all-star game, two announcers introduce players from each team one by one. The players' names get increasingly absurd, starting with slightly strange names like Tyrell Smoochie Wallace to total nonsense names like Donkey Teeth. The end de-escalates to a completely normal name, Dan Smith.
Yeah.
So I'm giving a little more color, a little more flavor to what it is exactly.
Yeah.
So it's not the announcers saying it; it's the players themselves. It's the ID, and you're seeing a plethora of different characters.
Yeah.
all
characters.
one name. Them saying their name, the way they say it, the way they look. It's just
Exactly.
got so much.
Well,
yeah.
I think that part of why that sketch resonates is that you couldn't just have the players like, and they kind of go across like the different like spectrums, but most of the players, there's a real pride. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, that's why they're good actors. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, they understand that these players made an all-star game and they're really proud, so they're saying their name with pride. You know what I mean? I get that. To me, like, is a little hidden thing of the the sketch. But I just want to go back to your original point when you were first talking, is that I think it's important, and that talks about my process. Like I talked earlier in an episode about, like a previous episode, about the structure of sketch as I see it, which is like 99% of sketches, which is an initiation, like then a turn. You're like, oh, this is what's, different or something.
Yeah.
It sets off an alarm bell in like the viewer.
Something off here.
Yeah. Then the escalation, and then the button. And you don't, like I said, you don't necessarily need an initiation, or you don't need a button. They help, but they're not necessary.
Yeah.
But really, when I look at a sketch, it's like, and I think if you're someone watching this and like, like wanting to write sketches or thinking about how our different processes, for me, it's like, what tickles me about this? You know what I mean? Like I get an idea and I'm like, oh, okay. Like my perspective, I'm thinking about something and my perspective has changed.
Yeah,
and like I'm like, whether it's, um, like the game show, like Black Jeopardy, I'm thinking about on SNL. You know what I mean? Where it's like, oh, okay, this is something I'm familiar with, but it's not quite the same. You know what I mean? And then the escalation.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I think too, I think we touched on it briefly, but I think people get so worried when they're thinking about what that twist or funny thing needs to be, that they're like, oh, I need to be funny here. Like I need to make the whole thing. I do think if the twist is funny in and of itself, that will make it a little easier to write it and make a funny sketch. But even if you find something that is, again, just interesting to you, like an interesting idea, like you will make it funny. As you can make it fun. You can write it in a way that is playful and funny. So if you find something that's just interesting in that twist, in that idea, I mean, if you're sitting down to write sketch comedy, you're probably a funny person, and the funny will come.
Well, I highly disagree with that. I've seen those sketch shows too.
But like, don't pressure yourself to be. I think as soon as you start pushing yourself to be funny, like you're not going to be.
I will say, and you guys can disagree or not, but like one thing we're taught in improv, and I think that's a huge advantage that all five of us have, is that we are taught that concept of don't try to be funny. Yeah, and it's like the thing of really what is different about today. And I think maybe a more granular thing is what is interesting about this scene. You know what I mean? Yeah, like, and it's usually not, like what people's idea of being funny is. You know what I mean? So I think that's a very good point, and I think that translates to sketch writing, but it can be like more structured.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So
I think improv and sketch writing is like, improv's a collaborative on the spur of the moment. So if you're thinking what's different about today or whatever, it's like you got to work that out with your partner. All you have to say is one line, and then let the other person come back, and then what does that spark in you? But I find as an improviser, the way to get there is to be as real as possible to yourself as a character, and to feel those feelings and to be that thing, and to just like kind of burrow a hole into the scene partner's head, make them feel who you are, and then all of a sudden you're batting the time.
But your gifts are given.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But so I feel like just being yourself, or just being that character and fully committing, is the get in improv. Sketch writing, I think it's you're an improv troupe in yourself. So you kind of work out where you're going. I work out where I'm going as I'm writing it. Usually it's like one line. I found that that's like my prompt. I'll just say lines that I think are kind of funny.
Well,
and then all of a sudden I'll start drilling into those for different sketch ideas.
I was gonna say, like, I think this has been great to like do a little education sesh on pitching. Like maybe, I don't know if we want to pitch ideas right now, but maybe periodically we just have episodes like this where, like, maybe the next one would be talking about like what you're talking about, like getting into the actual writing of the thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that was educational for me.
I think that I love everything you're saying. I don't know how I'm gonna word this right now, but I do feel like Charlie. No. I feel like Charlie was saying that idea of us getting together with computers, and you work on your own thing, you work on that. But I think what you're saying is that you would like to see more work and effort put forward on the sketches from us, and I agree with you. I think that you put a lot of work in. You want to see the same from us, and I appreciate that. And I respect what you're saying with that. I also think that it's more fun for me when it's like a social thing that we're doing together, with my buddies instead of me sitting in a room giggling at my computer by myself. I can do that all the time. Tons of stuff to giggle at the computer about. I also find that humor is a fickle mistress.
Sure.
Whatever that means. I don't even know what fickle mistresses are. But humor is different for everyone, and the things that you can catch on or you find to be funny or that you notice, like, that's a fun combination that I like to find with other people. You can find it by yourself and then introduce it and then find it more. But these sketches that you're bringing up are these like major historical sketches that everybody in our community knows. Like they're amazing, and it's easy to go, what did these super funny, time-tested, people laughed sketches do right? Versus like, and then say, yeah, we should kind of be emulating that a little bit. Versus like trying to just find what your own funny is and making that, showing that, being able to show that or be able to tap into that or get that communicated on your sketch or your picture, your video, or whatever your medium is.
So your last point, are you saying like
So-
not feeling the pressure?
No, I'm saying, I think that you're right in some sense, and it is better for a best practice on looking at like what has worked in comedy. But sometimes I think comedy is funny like that. You don't always know what's going to work. For us, I would say, for our personal experience in this last year of making pitches and whatever, I find like the stuff that we do that's a little bit more polished hasn't really kind of like shown to be as like accepted by the people or as enjoyed by the audience, because maybe we're missing a little bit of the magic with that or something. I don't really know. And I'm with you on trying anything to put a little more work in and to put a little more foot forward, and that is good. And I think we should be doing that and putting the effort in. I'm with you on that. But having like a surefire way of this is the best way to do it, and this is how comedy is done for that. It's not true, because even in our own practice, we're not like super successful right now because of this or standing to that.
I hear what you're saying. I think, when I encounter people that are kind of like new to writing it, sketch comedy, they'll be like, what? Why do I gotta watch a Monty Python sketch? Like, to me, that just like that worked for them. That's not how I do it. And I do think there's value in like in studying that and trying to not copy it, but follow the formula so that then you get it, you understand it, and then you can break out of it, because those elements, those greats, the way that they did it, I think they still apply. I see a lot of young people that are really into like they just want to skip straight to like the non sequitur absurd shit, which I love. But it's like, I try and tell them, like, if you just learned some of what we're talking about, like McKee's story, how to write a good game-based sketch, like those things that they will help you. I'm not necessarily saying that's what you're saying, but like I want to stress that. And then the last thing I'll say is, like, for me, like, I don't write every day, and it helps to like have some sort of a deadline or a little bit of pressure there. So this helps me to get a little pressure to write stuff, and maybe hopefully that'll help you guys too, to feel like if I'm kind of pushing on you guys to write stuff, that like we sit down, we're going to read on Wednesdays, and I want to see something from you guys. That kind of a thing. You don't have to come with something every week, but feeling like you have a bit of a deadline.
You want to see some effort. I understand that. I think that's fair. I want to see effort from me. I wish, and I feel like, thank you for motivating me.
Yeah, I'm the great motivator. So I don't know. Are we good with this one? Or
I think so too. I just want to say one last thing, and we can cut this or whatever. It doesn't have to be included. Sometimes I'm like on social media now, Facebook or something like that, and I'll see these like the reels now that they're showing me. They're like, sometimes they are some specific groups of people that are making comedy videos out there, and putting it onto these reels or putting it onto what
that are like short.
Yeah.
Or 90 seconds at most, like 60 at most.
Sure. And for the most part, like, once I see that actor or that person in there, I already have a feel on what the humor is in this. They think that this girl being there and this guy wanting that girl is going to be interesting, or they think doing like a pretend social interaction with people where they're like pretending filming like someone on the street and doing commentary on that is funny. And I know, like, kind of like the kind of views that they come at, I feel like that's a value for them.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like as we kind of come into more of what we find is funny and whatever and start producing that, then we'll get our niche and we'll feel that more.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just something that's going to naturally happen because of how we see humor, each of
Yeah.
us, and what we've experienced and what we find funny.
Yeah. Our style, maybe, is that what you're kind of?
Yeah. I don't know if that has anything to do with anything, but I just feel like there's going to be a natural style that comes forward. I don't know, however we do this or whatever, that I think either people will appreciate or they won't.
Mm-hmm.
That's humor.
Totally.
I agree.
So what else, guys?
No, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm kind of pissed off because I know comedy's great and philosophies on comedy's great, but I didn't get to talk about my protein bars.
Let's talk about it.
Talk about your
We
protein
can
bar.
throw this in.
Yeah. All right. We got to save room for joy.
So I've been struggling getting my body to Adonis level.
Well, I'm not gonna say the word, but I think you.
You said Spanner.
It's a serpe. Yeah. Yeah.
No, wait, sorry. I get.
You look great, Charlie.
Thank you.
You really do.
Thank you. I try too hard.
You actually do.
What I'm doing to get in front of it, all my snacking, is that I stopped doing edibles. Okay, that was a big one. And then I took all
California sober.
Then I took California sober. It's like I cut out even the California, so I'm just completely sober.
Yeah.
And then I replaced all of my snack bars and all candies with protein bars.
So how much candy were you eating?
Eating a lot. I was eating it's a lot much. I would eat
Look in the day.
like maybe 15 to 2,000 calories at night.
How many candy bars is that a night eating? How many
That's like
king size
4
grams or something?
maybe, but then it would do you would eat 4 candy bars a night? I would do like 2 candy bars, and then I would
What's
do
a candy bar? Like a full candy?
4-size candy bar, like those ones that I gave to you guys the other day, like
Costco size.
yeah, like big full guys.
Like
and
what?
And then I would do like cookie. These are
What's your candy bar of choice? I have to know now.
well, I had the what was it?
Oh yeah,
Crispy Crunchy.
Crunch.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Because you've had this journey on stopping drinking.
Yeah.
Did that ramp up when you stopped drinking?
Candy and
Candies. I think I started leaning on candies a little bit more.
new sugar drug.
Yeah, the candies new substitute.
There's a new.
The dose was a dopamine spike, and I originally quit boozing
Yeah.
to level out my dopamine levels.
Yeah.
And I did, and I felt great. But then, yeah, I'm still doping myself up with the candies.
I believe there is some theory out there. I'm not saying you're an alcoholic or anything, but like that with alcoholism, it has something to do with sugar. There's a sugar element to it that people are, because I think a lot of people that do quit drinking, like it happened with me too. Like definitely my sugar consumption went up. So there's definitely an element there of battling the sugar addiction too.
But so ChatGPT told me, because I had a fancy weight scale that has all my biometrics and stuff. I uploaded that to ChatGPT. I said, "You're my nutrition code."
Wait, what do you mean? It zaps electricity through your feet?
Yeah, and then it tells me how much of my body's bones, how much of my body is myelin. Yeah, and BMI and all that stuff. But my muscle is like I have 150 pounds of muscle on my frame.
Holy sh!
I know, and they said, "Oh, that's like athletic. That's like an athlete." It says if you want to lose fat and keep your muscle, you have to eat 150 grams of protein a day. And I'm like, that's so much that I don't ever do. So I replaced.
ChatGPT love protein. It's true.
But listen, I replaced the protein.
That's what the P in chat.
I got the levels up. I got my protein levels up, and now I've realized at the end of the night, I'm so full, I don't even want a snack. And I'm still coming in at a calorie deficit, so I've got more protein, and I'm more satiated. So you guys, this podcast is just going to document as the weeks go on.
Good.
I'm going to get more and more chiseled and defined. And
I hope so, Shirley.
yeah, I'm going to look like.
I don't want it. I don't want it to be gaunt and salad.
No.
I do think you need to think
Think
about.
of sexy Squidward.
I think a lot of not to like say like men have it tough, but like there's definitely something that's happened.
No, you say that. None do have it tough.
There's something that has happened, I think, recently with I think it's social media driven of like men feeling like they gotta be like ripped, I definitely fall into this too, where it's like, oh, I feel like I like work out a certain way for some aesthetic purpose. And I think I'm starting to get to a point where I'm like, that just doesn't matter. And it's hard to let go of that, but it's like as long as you,
As the most shredded guy in the group.
I'm not shredding, but like,
You have abs?
I mean,
Yeah, let's not talk about
no,
yeah, I do.
but as long as I think,
Yeah.
Shirtless podcast in 3 weeks.
like,
You gotta motivate each other.
God, that terrifies me on a level I can't even expect. All right.
like I'm getting older, so it's like it's important for me to just make sure that I'm healthy, that I got good mobility and got good cardio and all that stuff. So it's like for mental health too, for working out. So it's like getting too caught up in the aesthetic thing can really be bad, And it like, what does it matter? It doesn't. Nobody gives a shit. Like, Claire, if you feel better, I don't think.
I think it's funny. You both are in like long-term marriages.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so
I think
I'd be like, oh,
Well, it's good to feel like you look in the mirror and you like your body, but that is something you can do without working out all the time. Like really accept, and like everybody in the world can benefit from this of really accepting your body, and not hating it. Like if you're looking yourself in the mirror and you're
Your
like,
body's doing amazing.
That's what I was
You
about by this.
gotta be aware of that.
What's that?
Your body's doing amazing things for you.
It is. It really is, and it
cool to
appreciate that.
I do. I gotta say, I love my body, and I love my wife, and she says I don't need to do. Helena says you look great, you're fine, all this stuff. But to me, it's like a personal goal. I want to be, because
I get that.
I've been there. I've been there once.
Yeah.
I've been there once where I looked in the mirror and I had abs and I was svelte and I looked great. And I remember that feeling, and it was so quick. And I even took a mental snapshot. But okay, this is where I feel the best I've ever felt, and I look the best I've ever looked in my entire life.
Yeah.
And so I'd seen it, and I want to get back to that mountain.
But I think if you're tying your self-worth,
You sound exactly like the person I
Is sexier is when you just love yourself and you don't care. Like people that don't worried about it when they take it, that feels you don't want to put all your worries on other people because you feel some type of way about yourself. It's a bummer.
about what women think is attractive, like most women don't. Care if it should live this. Your pussy's from Mufflin. I know a lot.
Yeah. No, it's just
Confidence. That's
Yeah.
something.
No,
I agree. That's just
Because-
loving yourself.
the love. So when I hit the top of the mountain, I felt like the world just like I was in the bubble. It was like the world warped around me, and like I was brimming with confidence and had all this charisma and and I just feel like there is this point where you get to it, and then you're just like you're electric. You're like vibrating.
What I will say in closing.
I gotta say one more thing.
Okay, let's say it.
No, I was just gonna say, like I was saying, women love confidence, and we were talking about way earlier. I think we said women love like jerks or something like that.
No, we
Something like that.
No, we didn't.
Yeah, we did. We said something like I forget what not
Oh,
jerks.
we're
but
talking about women don't like nice guys.
nice.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I just want to say I think that's bullshit. I think because there's too many guys. I think that, and I've heard this too. Like, oh, I gotta be like super confident, and I gotta be like a
Alpha male.
I gotta be like that's such to me. I think it's such bullshit. Like, just be a nice guy. Like, just be yourself and be a nice.
I think the difference we're saying is kindness and niceness.
Yes,
Niceness is a facade.
exact.
Of
That's
the
such
near-
an easy thing for such a handsome dude to say.
You know,
You're
so
it's so easy to say for you because you're so handsome.
if you're just friendly to just don't.
You're handsome. You
Yeah,
ever
I know.
seen that
No.
meme of
And
guy
I will
eating in
say,
the office? That's you 100%.
All the stuff you guys are saying about liking your body. That's what thin people say. Fat people have a whole different experience. Trust me.
Yeah, well, listen.
And I'm working.
Yeah, it's disgustingly handsome. Stop it. That your body could get way big and I'd still be in for you.
I just think you'll have way more success regardless of
We gotta get those.
situation.
We gotta get those spot pillows.
How much do you think one body pillow costs?
Like $20.
Then we gotta get them over here. I think it'd be really fun.
Yeah.
Anyway,
In closing,
Well, thank you. Wes,
I would tell about one list.
No, it's not under Jolton.
Terrified to take her shirt off, Tony.
Yeah.
Terrified?
Terrifying. Anyway,
I'm
it's
terrified.
the whole thing. I could do it. I can do it. I do it once a year when I go on a lake trip.
Everyone take her shirt off right now.
No.
No,
Absolutely.
come on.
Absolutely. Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
close it out, Tone.
What I will close out is saying, I hope we've cleared the air or at least moved it around.
Oh, you
But
just started to rustle the dust. It's all coming.
Yeah, it's coming back out. Like, what you
Flush it 2 episodes right.
and
Rush into it.
I think we've gotten a good, useful discussion of pitch, and I think it's something we should revisit because I think it's not covered enough. But anyway, and then Charlie, all I will say to you is the way you were talking about being, that moment, is exactly how I hear a lot of addicts talking about the first time they tried a drug.
Yeah, that's what I'm addicted to my body.
Yeah.
Who isn't addicted to your
Well, it's cool when it's working great and everything.
So just be aware of that, and I wish you the best. I wish all of you the best. I wish you the best out there in viewership land. For Will Curry, Nate Hudson, Charlie, Matt, and Jason, who is with us in spirit, Petterson. I'm Tony Augusty saying, what's a good catchphrase to say? Like, what's we go on?
Stay human.
You know what? Keep growing.
Keep your shirt on, everyone.
Tony, that's all the best. All right. Cut it.
Want to make you laugh, so sit back and relax, or else you'll feel their wrath.